looking live.
Here comes the play. Goodman at the free throw line. Jumper.
He broke his ankles. He is Houdini.
Mickey Mantle don't care about you, so why should you care about him? Nobody cares.
That's not a good call. No.
You don't like that call.
I don't like that call.
Woo, 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 woo. Not so fast.
Villanova, college basketball, you know, a lot of teams who have had future Hall of Fame coaches. Maybe not a lot of teams, but a few teams. Duke and Villanova. Coach K, no longer the coach at Duke, and Jay Wright, still no longer the coach at Villanova. Villanova not off to a great start this season, and I don't know if this is something that they can rebound from. I don't know if this is something that is just a temporary issue with them. We have a long season to go. We have a few months left, right? We just got started. But they legitimately might miss the tournament this season because you look at their conference, the Big East, and a lot of teams are showing promising signs of being competitive. And in a conference that is very competitive anyway for basketball, if you're going to be struggling, it doesn't exactly get any easier when you go into conference play. So I think Villanova, and I get that, you know, they had one bad loss to start the season, and it might be a little bit of an overreaction, but I don't know. I'm not very confident in them. You know, and also in the Big East, I'm very interested to see how UConn will do. First season back in the Big East, and honestly, I'm very interested in the Big East overall because the whole thing with Villanova, as I just mentioned, Jay Wright's gone. Kevin Willard left Seton Hall for the job at Maryland, so Seton Hall's kind of like rebuilding or whatever. Not rebuilding, but you know what I'm saying. They're moving on, going into a new era. DePaul just knocked off Minnesota the other night. Is there anything there? Who knows? Teams only played 2 or 3 games, so tough to tell. And as I mentioned, always great action from the Big East in general. So, you know, while there might be some teams that are, you know, in the top that are ranked like Creighton and UConn and whatnot, don't discredit, you know, maybe DePaul or Seton Hall or Georgetown even. You know, that's a wild card team we've seen in the past. So, very excited to see what happens in the Big East. But I do think Creighton's in the Big East. I think Creighton right now has a chokehold grip on that conference without a doubt. Big 12, I don't know. What do you want me to say? I don't really think it's going to come down to any other team other than Baylor and Kansas. You know, Oklahoma State, they're looking at Texas, yeah, but I just don't think that those teams quite match what Kansas and Baylor bring to the table. And I don't think that they can necessarily knock them off of the top 2 right there. Big 12 is going to be great. You know, about it. I think Kansas and Baylor, obviously they are the 2 big favorites in the Big 12, but it's not one of those things. Oh, you know, well, they're the favorites, but you know they really need to look out for so and so. I'm not seeing it just yet. The Big 10. You know, I last year was kind of a breaking point for me in the Big 10. Excuse me, because every year the Big 10, you know, has a great season in the regular season. You know, whatever teams make the tournament, and I think last year it was. Last year, you know, Big 10 had the most teams make the tournament out of any other conference in the country, and you know, this has happened in previous years where it was, oh, you know, the Big Ten's the best basketball conference and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, all these great things were coming out of the Big Ten and all this great stuff was being said about them. And then they came out in the tournament and just is one way to put it. This year, last year was a breaking point for me. This year, I'm not trusting the 10 team. Unless they're out of the state of Michigan, because I hate to say it for either team. I hate to say it for both. But Tom Izzo, he knows how to coach up that team come March. When March rolls around, a switch is flipped, some thinking caps get put on, some basketball hats get put on, and it's a different team every year, every single year. And even Michigan, who, again, hate to say it, but Michigan has consistently gotten into the second week, sometimes even the third weekend. They're pretty good in March, and Iowa last year was a team that was looked at as a incredibly good shooting team. They did nothing. Illinois, the past few years, it was 2 years ago, right? They were the number 1 seed. They lost to Loyola Chicago. They didn't play very well last year. I mean, Ohio State 2 years ago lost to, or was that wasn't last year, I don't think. I think it was 2 years ago when they lost to Oral Roberts. And then for the past 2 years, and even beyond that, the Big Ten, other than Michigan and Michigan State, have not had a great, not have had great history in March in the tournament. So, yeah, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan are all ranked to be in season, but I think Michigan State, again, hate to say it because I'm not a big fan of Tom Izzo, but he does know how to coach up that team, no matter who is on it, when March is around. So that's a team that could definitely make things interesting. And I also, Purdue, I think, is not getting necessarily recognized for what maybe they should, because they're always a team that's also pretty good as well. And I know that they lost a few guys to the draft and everything, but I think them, Michigan State, obviously, and then some kind of middle of the pack teams who had lost some players to the draft and whatnot, like Iowa, Rutgers, and Michigan State. Look out for them. I think they can make things interesting, and even, let's get a little crazy here, Penn State could make things interesting as well. The ACC, honestly, the ACC is going to be pretty clear cut and dry. It's going to be Duke, Carolina, and Virginia really at the head of the at the top, and then the middle of the pack, they'll be okay, I guess, but I don't think they really have what it takes to threaten the teams at the top. And I just said earlier that we've only played 3 games, but the season is already over for Florida State and Louisville. Those 2 programs just that is embarrassing. That is blatantly embarrassing for those 2 teams. Pac-12. I gotta say, honestly, I'm not really buying any Pac-12 team just yet. And yeah, UCLA and Arizona, top 15 ranking. Sure, that also happened last year. They were ranked pretty high, and Arizona was a 1 seed, and sure, that all happened. But again, kind of a Big Ten thing where they have a great regular season, and then they get into the postseason, and it's kind of shaky. And I know 2 years ago, UCLA made that incredible Final Four Cinderella run, but that was when there was no pressure on them, there was no expectation to do anything, and now there is that expectation. And even last year it was a little shaky, but I need to see them put together a complete season. And I mean, Arizona last year almost lost to or I think they did lose to TCU, didn't they? Pretty sure, or they almost did. I can't quite remember. My bracket was terrible last year, so I got to a point where I was just kind of watching to watch, and I wasn't really keeping any receipts on that. But UCLA, another great team they have lined up there, and for their sake, hopefully they can put something together. But and yeah, they're definitely the favorite, and I think they'll do some great things this season. But I need to see a complete season out of them before I start to say that. Hey, they're going to make a deep run in the tournament. And the SEC. I think the SEC is going to be very fun this year. Maybe the most competitive conference in basketball this season. Kentucky, the obvious favorite, but don't sleep on Alabama. And I don't know how much you really can sleep on a team that is ranked top 25. And Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, Auburn, and Arkansas are all in the top 25 for the SEC to start the season. But Auburn and Arkansas, as always, are going to make a push for the, not as always, but over the past five or so years, they'll once again make a push for an SEC title, and hopefully, for their sake, a deep March run. And Tennessee, a team that is, I believe, ranked 22nd this week. Sure, they're ranked top 25, and as I just said, I don't know how much you can really sleep on a top 25 team, but I'm not sure that Tennessee is going to be... Well, let me stop right there. I don't know what to expect out of Tennessee. I feel like the Volunteers are going to be very unpredictable this season. I do. I don't think there's gonna. I don't think they're going to be a team where you can say they're good blatantly. Like, yeah, they're going to be a deep run team. They're going to threaten Kentucky and everybody to win the SEC. I think they're going to be unpredictable. I think there's one game where they could beat Kentucky, and the next game they could lose to a terrible team this year. They could lose to any no-name team. I just that's kind of what I'm feeling on that. Back to Auburn and Arkansas, however, look out for Arkansas because Eric Musselman has had good history in March, so look out for the Razorbacks this season as they might be able to make they're kind of in my book at least, a sneaky Final Four contender, perhaps. I don't know yet. A lot of basketball to be played. I'm usually not a big fan of getting into, what I think is going to happen in March when it's only November, but just kind of some early predictions and some early to take into consideration there for college basketball.